Hello and welcome back to another devlog on the things I've been working on. Plant Game is still very early on in development, actually still in the experiment phase, and there's still a lot I want to plan and experiment with before bringing Plant Game into a more playable state of development. But I've got some plans for my game goals to feed a very hungry but picky plant. If a per level goal is to feed the plant until it's satisfied, then a longer term goal might be to just buy stuff. I haven't decided yet if those things you buy are required or simply cosmetic. I think I need the prototype phase to mature more until I'm able to make that decision though. But what I have decided is that coin collecting should never be tedious, but should be a little fun. If a lot of the level is destroyed, it wouldn't be that fun to try to collect any coins if they're under debris or you need to constantly run in circles to get them all. So I settled on having the coins just come to you if you're in a certain range, adding in a little vertical kick when the coin is on the ground, and I've got a chaotic bundle of coins going right at you. Plant Game, along with most physics games, will always have one problem: CPU overhead. All my decisions will need to have that in consideration since there's so much math going on behind the scenes. With the coins, I'll make them so that they're only gravitated to you in a bubble. There's another efficiency trick I want to look into: comparing tags or comparing layer masks, or essentially strings versus ints. If I'm doing enough tag checks in a single physics frame, it would make sense that the latter is more efficient. By how much? Not really sure to be honest, but perhaps after the prototype phase I can do a full-blown stress test. Another thing to consider for optimizations is the type of collider to use, or rather the one not to use. While mesh colliders can get you precise collisions, they can only have up to 255 triangles, and can tank your frame rate if you have a lot of them interacting with other non-static mesh colliders, but only if they're convex versions, or else they'll go right through each other. Your other option is to use a primitive, or lots of primitives. If you have multiple primitive colliders parented under a single rigid body, then all of them will get treated as a single physics body, and the performance gain over a mesh collider is definitely worth the manual setup time. In the last devlog, I added in the ability to grab certain items and to throw them back. I lacked a way to display this, but I have a way in mind. While I've been away from game dev for my day job, URP finally got camera stacking. Built-in has had that for basically forever, and a lot of my habits for UI was tied to that feature. If I was to do this with a single camera, it'd still be doable, but it would be way more annoying to move objects with a rotated canvas or as a gigantic canvas. When I use the default canvas mode, I find myself either seeing it overlaid way too often or accidentally selecting it too much. So seeing camera stacking back into my workflow is very relieving. It makes working with UI with 3D models way easier when I can just put it at the bottom of the world, out of sight, out of mind. Moving on from that, I added in sprinting to the character controller. It's a little hard to see, so moving some particles would be nice. Jumping into Blender for a moment, I'll use some metal balls to make a quick blob of smoke. With a quick decimate and a particle system, I've got a nice smoke run, and if I tweak a few things, I can get a nice smoke column as well. I can imagine these looking nice with a toon shader. Maybe the devlog after next, I'll focus on doing shader graph stuff again. I'm really needing a refresher, to be honest. My girlfriend and I, mainly her, worked on one other thing for the night, but I think that'll be better to show off in its own devlog, so I can have the entire pipeline of that asset in one video. Subscribe and stay tuned for that one. For now, I think it's time I finally went to bed. So, after my opening shift at my day job, I decided to look into how to do breakable items. Every game needs a crate. Oh, and a pallet too. But I'm focusing on the crate for now. I like to avoid any mesh generation at runtime, so I'm going to do a classic switcheroo. I'll limit that by only switching them out if there's enough force applied with on-collision enter, and I'll further limit that when an object comes from the pick-up-able layer. And just to make it look better, I can create an explosion force at the point of collision for every rigid body in the broken version. There's a second problem with crates that I want to avoid. If you have two separate physics bodies intersecting with each other, they tend to explode away from each other. Although this is the vibe I want Plant Game to have, just pure chaos, if I have an important item in there, there could be a chance it shoots off out of bounds and would make the level unplayable. Probably best to avoid that. When I was at my day job, I tried to come up with a way of scaling randomly placed colliders to avoid too much explosion, or if I needed to look into some sort of space packing algorithm. But then I thought, why don't I just pour it into the box? It was just this easy? Already the physics stepper tool from the last devlog is proving very useful. Anyways, I'm starting to get a bit tired of seeing so many checkerboard patterns in this prototype game, so I'll leave you with some Substance Designer sketches that I'll implement next week. Hope you guys stay safe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.